Hi, it's Bumble. Welcome back to my channel. I literally just woke up and then decided to record this, and I probably have like 20 minutes for this anyway before I gotta go eat some breakfast. I got some things to do today, but this is kind of more just me giving like my general thoughts of checking out the Muppets Tonight Show, because I just had finished watching some of the more modern Muppet movies, and that kind of put me in the like Muppet mood, especially because Muppets 2011 is about the original Muppet Show, but I didn't want to watch that again. I'm gonna also kind of make some comparisons to the two because I thought that would be kind of interesting. Because like with the original Muppets show, it was like 4 seasons, took place in the 70s and stuff. I felt like it was kind of a little bit too long. I'm surprised it went on for like 4 or 5 seasons, but it's fun. That one has more of like I mean, not wholesome all the time, but definitely more like kind of wholesome than this and stuff. And I feel like kind of has a bit more charm. And this one, it's like you'd think like, oh, cool, the revival, like a more modern revival of the Muppets show would be pretty cool, or have kind of, I almost want to say like a bit more effort even, but like for what it is, at least it's something. I think it is kind of cool of like, what if you modernized the Muppet Show? And I do think in some ways it kind of needed it. It's kind of funny saying that actually, because now at the time recording this, it's been announced that they're gonna like revive the original format of the Muppet Show, which I hope that'll be cool. That's kind of the one that's more iconic for a reason. But this one's interesting. I feel like if I had grown up in the 90s and I was like watching this as a kid, I probably would have really liked it. Would have been probably like my introduction to the Muppets and stuff. Is this one, it takes place in like the mid 90s, and the format, instead of being like, I mean, it's still like a Muppet variety show, but instead of taking place in their theater, it's more of like a TV set and stuff, and it still has a lot of the shenanigans that actually were kind of my favorite parts of the original Muppet Show, where it would be the Muppets themselves without any of the skits, or like it's them being themselves, and they're trying to put together this show because of just all the wackiness of it. And it still has a host too, like instead of the host being Kermit, the host is this new character who's the pink character on the right. His name's Clifford. He's the host, and he's kind of cool. I think I just prefer Kermit. I liked with the original Muppet Show with Kermit was just constantly kind of tired of everyone's bullshit, and he was always like stressed all the time, and I feel like that made it funnier. And Kermit being a more iconic character, it was just interesting of like, he's normally so like calm and whatever, just like a nice little guy, and then having to deal with the madness of the Muppets, it like balanced out pretty well. And Clifford is more, definitely kind of has more of a modern feel to him and stuff. He has the vibe of like late night talk show host. There's even like sections at the beginning of the episode where he is literally in front of like that kind of background and everything. But he's cool. He's like pretty funny. I think he's funnier than Kermit. He has some good reactions to things. Like I remember I was watching the Pierce Brosnan episode. They had the gun barrel intro, and it was focused on him because like Pierce Brosnan wasn't on screen at that point, and he's like, no, don't have that on me. He has like more kind of, definitely more like sass and stuff that I feel like fits with this format. The show, like I can understand why they have a new, or I don't know if he's a new character actually for the show, because some of them are, but I can understand why they have him as the host. It like kind of fits the format better rather than Kermit. And then Rizzo the Rat is like his little assistant or something, kind of in the same way of like Kermit had Scooter, but this time it's usually them on screen like dealing with the craziness together. I like Rizzo, but I feel like sometimes I find him funny as a character and sometimes I don't. But, I do like that this show, I mean, a lot of the iconic Muppets and stuff, like Piggy and Gonzo and Kermit, I don't actually remember seeing much of Fozzie, if I'm honest, from what I remember, are there, but they're kind of more of like side characters. And even though I love them and stuff, and, what I just said about Kermit, I feel like I actually really like that they try to give more side characters more attention and stuff, because all the ones on screen are like important, like Clifford the Penguin's the host. There's that big brown bear. I've been wondering about the big brown bear because he was like a villain character in the new Muppets stuff, and I'd recognize Mr. Deadly. Why was I gonna call him Uncle Deadly? Mr. Deadly, who's usually in like these villainous roles, but I had no idea who this bear was, and I watched Muppets Tonight, and he's sort of like a kind of the same character of being like a little bit dumb but like well-meaning, where in this he is their like security guard. I don't remember what his name is right now. I mean, I know normally I don't remember names, but right now I like really am blanking out on names because I just woke up, but I think he's a cool character. I like his little bits of being a security guard where he has to like make sure to let only certain people in or whatever, and he has all these little conversations with the host kind of in the same way that actually I think there was a security guard type character in the original Muppet show, because Kermit was the host and there was a security person they always had to talk to. I don't remember if it was Miss Piggy or it was someone, because I like vaguely remember those segments. I remember Roger Moore entering the studio. I need to actually rewatch that episode again, but I'll get that into a minute. And having to talk to someone that wasn't Kermit to be able to get into the theater. Oh, that reminded me. Oh, wait, no. We have to go over some of these other characters I forgot. There's these two pig characters. I think that they're Miss Piggy's like nephews or something. They were sometimes kind of funny. They were also kind of supposed to be a bit stupid. They reminded me at times of like Bill and Ted, or I think because there's an episode where they almost electrocute themselves, and I swear it sounds like someone doing a Bill and Ted impression. There's that elephant character. I don't remember what their role is. I kind of didn't remember them very much, but I do like the design of the puppet. And then the green guy next to Fozzie is named Johnny. And he's like a singer. I was curious to look up who he's voiced by. I thought he had a pretty good voice. Like there's an episode that's kind of focused around him because it's the episode where Tony Bennett is hosting, and Johnny is apparently like a... Hold on, sorry. I don't have enough time to go get some water right now, so I have to like cough out all the garglies or whatever. My apologies. Johnny is like a Tony Bennett super fan. That episode was really cool. Like I've never really listened to Tony Bennett's music, but now I want to. Like I'd first heard of him actually through all his collaborations with Gaga, and then seeing him in this and stuff. Now I'm like, I gotta get on it. His voice is amazing, Tony Bennett's, but so is the character Johnny's. So I need to see who he's voiced by. I'm curious. That's like pretty much the cast of it. So, like, you have those, like, main four of, like, the iconic Muppets on screen here of, like, Gonzo, Fozzie, Kermit, and Piggy. You get to see others, too. Like I mentioned, like, Rizzo's there as well. I'm actually surprised he's not on the cover of this because he's so prominent in this show. But, yeah, that's pretty much, like, a cast of characters. So it's, like, kind of a mix of, like, new and old, more focused on new. Actually, like I mentioned, I liked that. I thought it kind of fit with the theming of this better. Guest stars. I think guest stars is my favorite thing. I'll be honest, I watched this show and the original Muppet show the same way that I watch SNL, where I usually try to watch them all in order, and then eventually I get kind of tired and I'm like, okay, let me just go to the episodes of the hosts that I know and like, that'll probably be like funny, or ones I know will have performances I definitely like to see. I think that just kind of makes it easier for me to get through those shows, because like depending on what they have like so many episodes, you know. Muppets Tonight actually only has 2 seasons. I was surprised by that. I just assumed, you know, for something like this would be longer. I guess that's a hint that maybe it didn't do well. For me personally, it was kind of slow. I didn't really enjoy it at first, and I kind of got into it. But I mean, I'd probably enjoy anything with the Muppets, to be honest, or almost anything. But yeah, with this, I know I'm kind of giving my thoughts, but I mentioned at the beginning this is kind of my more generalized thoughts, because I didn't watch every episode. I literally just binged this entire show. Or I shouldn't say entire. I binged a good chunk of this show. I think there's only a couple episodes I didn't watch. literally last night, and I reached the point where I'm satisfied with what I watched. I don't really want any more Muppets tonight. I'm good. So, you know, that's kind of it for me. And I kind of mostly wanted to watch it just because I'd been watching some of the Muppet movies and stuff. But yeah, what was cool for me was the hosts, because my thing with the Muppet Show, and it's not anything against the Muppet Show, it's literally because of me, is that because it's from the, like, mid 70s, probably early 80s, I mean, there is a lot of hosts and stuff that I do recognize, either from, like, movies they're well known for. For me, with the original Muppet Show, it's actually a lot of the musical stars that I recognize, which is really cool. They have like 6 different like Broadway people and stuff. I still need to go and rewatch the Bernadette Peters episode, actually. But that also means that a lot of the references and stuff are like things from the 70s as well. 60s and 70s. Some of them I get, like the Julie Andrews one episode was really cool, where there's like Sound of Music things in there. Or like Roger Moore's Bond and stuff. Oh yeah, I have to talk about James Bond in this too. I forgot. But there was a lot of people in the original Muppet Show I just did not recognize because, you know, I wasn't alive and I wouldn't know that. It's kind of the same way as like watching early SNL, where it's a lot of people like my parents recognize and I don't. But with Muppets Tonight, it's the 90s, you know, so I still don't recognize like everyone, but like a majority of the hosts I did. So that was kind of fun. I think that just made me appreciate like a lot of the types of characters they play, or a lot of the references, because there's references to a lot of like 90s movies. Some of them I still need to see though. Like the Billy Crystal one had a whole skit dedicated to When Harry Met Sally. I still need to watch that. I know that's like one of the iconic like Billy Crystal movies and stuff. I still gotta see it. I think they have a reference to Sandra Bullock's Speed in there, the one with Keanu Reeves. I still need to see that too. But those were cool. Let me pull up the list of hosts, because that's going to help me really quick with telling you like the specific episodes I loved, or bits that I thought, you know, were funny or whatever. 1 second. Muppets Tonight hosts. Okay, let's see if this will work. Sorry. It makes me fill out sometimes the thingy, the click the pictures of all the cars or whatever. Okay. I was actually just on the Muppets Wiki looking at this last night. I should have just bookmarked it or whatever. I should have done a list of episodes. Yeah, there it is. Okay. All right. So I kind of watched this a bit in order. I started with like the Michelle Pfeiffer episode. That one was cool. I'm going to mostly be talking about specific skits and songs and things. I liked when her and Miss Piggy are trying to both play Maria from The Sound of Music, and they're doing the song My Favorite Stings and kind of singing over each other and stuff. That was pretty cool. I liked the Billy Crystal episode. I feel like those kind of like actors, like comedians and stuff, are like especially good with the Muppets. It's kind of the same vibe I have towards SNL, where it's like, if it's someone that's funny and like, more importantly, willing to be silly, willing to, you know, put up with any type of skit or whatever, I feel like it makes them better for these kinds of shows. Hold on a minute. Okay, I got some water. Hopefully I sound a little better. Again, sorry that sometimes when I record these I'm like coughing nonstop or whatever. It's just when I record I get all, I mean, not when I record, in the mornings, my voice is still kind of, you know, a little hoarse and whatever. I got kind of the gurglies, and then if I try to record like within the first like 2 hours I'm awake, I sound all messy, but sometimes it's my only time to record. Okay, anyway, but yeah, the Billy Crystal episode was fun. Now I need to watch When Harry Met Sally soon, and then I can rewatch that skit again. Let me see, because the Muppets Wiki actually has the list of skits. I liked there was also a segment for the song The Lion Sleeps Tonight, and it's the same song and everything, but I like the puppets for it and stuff. But I think my favorite part of that section was where Billy Crystal teaches you about jazz, and they play some song. I don't know if it was like an actual song, but I thought it was pretty cool. It just sounded really good. And the John Goodman episode. At this point, I'm not going off the order I enlisted, or that I watched it in. I'm just going off of the episodes thing. I thought the John Goodman episode was gonna be funnier, though. I did like the intro of it, where there's the two pigs, the ones that are Miss Piggy's relatives. They're trying to change a light bulb, and John Goodman is trying to get them not to electrocute themselves, but they're kind of, a bit dumb, so they electrocute themselves anyway. It's just like a funny little bit. Normally I was actually skipping through a lot of these little intro skit like segments and stuff. I think I just liked that the pig characters, especially in that scene, sounded a lot like Bill and Ted from Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Oh, there's other characters I forgot to talk about that I don't even know the names of. There's a lot of cool little like Muppet designs and stuff. There's like this scientist character who has these like laboratory segments that are pretty cool. Sam the Eagle's also there. I forgot about that. He pops up occasionally. There's one design I really like where it's this green kind of fuzzy Muppet has this nose where it just looks like if you turned the worm on the string toy into a Muppet, and I love that so much, actually. What else? Was it Cindy Crawford? I don't remember. No, Paul Abdul. Wrong episode. I actually didn't watch the Cindy Crawford one. But I mentioned about the Tony Bennett one. Like, they have him in a couple of skits. They mostly have him to sing. There's a part at the end where he sings with the Johnny character. Anytime he sings in this episode is actually really good. That's kind of the only thing I wanted to mention. I thought that was pretty fun. There was one joke, because that's the thing, this show, I think because it was on ABC, they can definitely get away with more adult jokes. Not that the Muppet Show was always wholesome and clean, or the Muppets aren't. I mentioned in my Muppet review videos, that's something I like with the Muppets, where they're not, you think like, like a lot of adults would think like, oh, puppets or whatever. You'd think it's like, oh, it's for kids or whatever. But Muppets, I'd say, is more like family friendly than anything, but not always family friendly. Where they can get away with like dirtier jokes about things and stuff, but they especially push it here. Like, I'm not kidding, in the Tony Bennett episode, and it ends up being, as part of the joke, is the reason why Kermit says it. But it was still just so surprising to literally hear Kermit say the words filthy dirtbag in the Kermit voice and everything. And the whole skit is that this network censor Muppet shows up and is like, hey, you can't say that on TV or on like a family show or whatever, and then he's talking about a little bag of dirt. It's one of those kind of jokes where it's like they're talking about something else that the person doesn't know about. But yeah, hearing Kermit say that, I literally paused and I messaged my friend and I'm like, do you know what they're doing on this show? But just the fact they're able to get away with jokes like that is kind of interesting. Sometimes I feel like they push a little like too much that I'm surprised by, but not too bad. But yeah, that caught me off guard, but it was kind of funny because I expected it to turn into like different wording to be able to get away with the joke. Okay. The Sandra Bullock episode was fun. That's the other thing with watching this, or watching some kind of shows where some episodes it's like the host was there most of the time, and then there's some where it's like they weren't really there too much. I like that they did a parody of the movie While You Were Sleeping. That's one that I'd actually seen. There's a skit that I liked where Sandra Bullock, she plays a psychiatrist, and Kermit's her patient, and every time he says the words phenomena, the little pink, the creatures show up, which I feel like I don't see them in many Muppet things. I don't know if they exist solely for that song and stuff, because I know that's like an iconic thing from the Muppet Show, and then they show up in the credits of Muppets 2011, and then they show up for a bit here, and I swear I don't remember them in anything else, but I think they're so goofy. I mean, I know the Phenomena isn't originally like a Muppet song, it's just like something associated with the Muppets, but that was just like a perfect sketch to me. Okay, now I'm wishing I watched the whole episode because I'm reading about the skit highlights. Okay, so there's an episode with Jason Alexander I'm going to talk about. Oh, okay, I can talk about that now, actually. Yeah, there's an episode of Jason Alexander as the host, and because it's the 90s, I'm like, okay, where's the Seinfeld episode where he's playing George, or like in this, you know? His episode does not have a Seinfeld reference. I'm a little sad. There is a sketch about Seinfeld in the Sandra Bullock episode where it's called Seinfeld Babies, and oh my gosh, these puppets look so cursed. It's kind of funny. Because there's baby characters in Muppets Most Wanted, and I said to my friend, I was like, I thought they'd look creepy, but with their little beady eyes, they actually look kind of adorable. They look like rejected Cabbage Patch Kids. Actually, Cabbage Patch Kids look creepier to me. I've always hated the eyes in those things, and I used to have one when I was little. But the Seinfeld babies, I think because they have hair, I'm looking at a picture of it in the wiki. It's just really funny because like they have the one for Kramer. There's something about seeing one of those Muppet baby, not Muppet Babies, the show, but like the designs for babies, and seeing one that's just bald. I know babies are usually bald and stuff, but you know, I'm so used to fictional babies with hair that just the idea of George Costanza just being bored bald. So yeah, I gotta go watch that. I have to find that. That's why it's good I'm forcing myself to go back through like what are the list of sketches and stuff. Oh yeah, the song Mac the Night, that one's always pretty good. Johnny gets to sing that in here, which I thought was kind of fun. I also liked it because I've been listening to a lot of like Bobby Darin because of the musical that came out. But yeah, that's a fun episode. I liked it. I don't know why I always get surprised seeing like 90s Sandra Bullock, because I think I'm used to her from stuff from the 2000s, but I like a lot of her like early 2000s 90s movies and stuff. I think they're pretty cool. But yeah, then there's the Jason Alexander episode. I actually like that it doesn't focus on Seinfeld. It actually focuses on how he does a lot of like Broadway stuff. I was actually surprised by that because I remember watching Seinfeld. That's like the thing probably everyone knows him from is Seinfeld. And then I was reading and then I got into the Raggedy Ann and Andy musical sometime afterwards, and I was looking up to see if the songs are on Spotify. I don't think they are, and that breaks my heart. I love the music in that musical. And in the movie of it, because there's a musical for Raggedy Ann and Andy, but it's not under that title, and there's a movie by Williams, the animated one, that's also like a musical format. Anyway, and I saw there was a cover of one of the songs, and I saw Jason Alexander listed there, and I'm like, wait, George Costanza from Seinfeld sings? But no, he does, and I need to look into that. Actually, I found out he was apparently in the original production of Merrily We Roll Along, and I checked it out, and he sings really good and stuff. But anyway, my point with that is, I'm glad this episode actually focuses more on like his like musical theater roots and stuff, and he does get to sing here, which is fun. They have a parody of Cats at the end of this musical called Bats the Musical, but they don't sing anything from Cats. The costumes for that are so silly. It's actually the picture for this episode and stuff. They have a skit of Murder on the Orient Express that I thought was pretty cool. That's the one other thing I like with this. I was saying in my I think my Muppets 2011 review, one of my Muppet movie reviews of like, oh, I wish the Muppets would adapt more stories and stuff. Like I said, I'd kill for a Muppet version of The Princess Bride, and also, you know, like Phantom of the Opera. But that's the cool thing with the shows. They have a couple of skits in the episodes sometimes where it's like parodies of things in movies, but with the Muppets. Like I don't think I'd want a Muppets not Polar Express. No. Actually, that would be better. The 3D models in that movie are so cursed. I don't know how I wasn't scared of it as a child. But no. Murder on the Orient Express. I don't think it would need a whole Muppet movie, but having it here as like a little skit, I think is fun. And I like the sets in this show too. Like they have a train in that one. I think it's pretty fun. Or a lot of the time you see Stelter and Waldorf. Is it That's really their names, yeah. I felt like I was going to mispronounce that. The two old guys that are always heckling. I like that for this. And I feel like it fits more, you know, because they aren't in a theater, they're on a TV set. So it's like, why would these two old geezers be at a TV set? So instead, they're actually in a nursing home. And you see them sometimes, or they're in the home, or sometimes they're even like outside or whatever, but they have funny bits. I think that fits the format of the show better, of like they're watching it from TV. I think they need to stay in the nursing home longer though. I think it's kind of funny because like, you know, in the original show, you know, they're there at the theater and stuff, and then here they're in a nursing home, but then the Muppet movies, they're out and about doing shit, you know. But that episode's pretty fun as well. I think one of my favorites was actually the Whoopi Goldberg episode. There's a sketch that's based on the People's Court with her and Miss Piggy that I thought was pretty funny. There's actually more songs in this. There's like there's No Woman, No Cry, where it's her and these like rats, they're referred to as the reggae rodents. I thought that one was kind of funny, but also sung well. Diamonds Are a Girl's Best Friend with her and Miss Piggy was like so iconic actually, where they have the outfits and the background and everything for that song. I thought that was really fun. I loved their costumes. They had the little penguin. I love the little penguin characters, but that's just because penguins are my favorite animal. Which I know, yeah, my mascot for this channel is a mouse, but penguins are my favorite. But my favorite thing in this episode, and it's my favorite thing, one of my favorite things from Muppets Tonight. I almost wish I went blind into this particular sketch too, because it would have been so much funnier for me. I didn't though, because my brother had sent me a video about it one time, and I was like, this is really funny. What the heck is this? And then I didn't know what Muppet thing it was from. I assumed it was from like the Muppet Show or something, even though it literally couldn't have been from the Muppet Show, but I was like, it has to be from something like that. I thought it wasn't even a thing from the Muppets. It is the Once in a Lifetime song sung by Kermit. It's actually shorter than I thought it would be, but it is one of my favorite things from this just because it's so goofy and it like perfectly matches the original music video and stuff. It's supposed to be that Kermit has to do a musical number replacing a like giant character. So Kermit has to wear the suit, and it parodies that Talking Heads song. Like they have all the movements and everything down perfectly, and it's already so goofy that like having the Muppets for it works really well. It's in the Kermit voice and everything. There's like these 3 screens in the background that are like showing all this stuff. There's one point where it shows a bunch of people with guns, and then having Kermit in the background just like really threw me off. But there's a lot of these shots of just Kermit's full body in that suit with like the big ass 80s shoulder pads and everything, and the pants. I think that just seeing Kermit the Frog wear clothes throws me off, even though we've seen it before. But also, you know, the suit really is too big for him. And there's also these other Kermit Muppets that are also on stage, that are also singing. They function like a hive mind. That's the other thing I'm so used to with the Muppet Show, where it's just that particular character, that's it. But here it's like in the show they have multiple versions of different characters, not like relatives or alternates or whatever, but like copies of the same puppet, and it like always throws me off where I'm like, Kermit's there, no Kermit's there. But yeah, the Once in a Lifetime segment, I think this show is pretty fun if you're a Muppet fan and stuff. I feel like it's only really like if you want to experience the Muppet Show but you don't want to watch the whole thing, or you think it's too like dated or whatever, if you're having like thoughts about it, or if you've already seen it and you just need something new, I think you should check this out. But if you're not going to check it out, because it's really, really easy to binge, actually, you can get through it in like an entire day. But do yourself a favor, if you're not going to check out this show, at least check out the Once in a Lifetime skit. It's great. But yeah, there's that. So that made that episode one of my favorites. The Martin Short episode I also like. Martin Short, kind of like with Billy Crystal, I think is good for these kind of shows where he's down with anything. I like that they have his SNL character, Ed Grimley, on here, which I gotta mention that to my dad at some point. I watched SNL when Martin Short was a cast member. I don't mean while it was airing. I wasn't like alive, I think, but Yeah, no, because he was a cast member in the 80s, if I remember right. I never actually watched the Ed Grimley skits because I always like skipped around episodes and stuff, so I didn't really know anything about the character, but he's here. He is kind of funny. But he does a good job with it and stuff. I like how the opening sketch is him with his agent telling Kermit things he demands. They make fun of his height throughout the entire episode, but in a way where it's like a little bit funny. It's a part where he's in an elevator and it causes him to become even short, and it's just him on his knees, but he just looks so tiny. It's kind of goofy, and Rizzo keeps making jokes about like, no, he's Martin, extremely short or whatever. They also do a parody of Flipper where Kermit plays a dolphin, and it's one of the only times in the show that Kermit actually gets upset about something, so it's kind of funny. And then he gets to sing at the end, which I thought was pretty cool. And that's pretty much it. Yeah. What else do we have? And then it's the second season. I'm still surprised that they got Prince on here. I don't know why. I feel like out of everyone, like they have a lot of famous people in here, I feel like Prince is the one that just impresses me the most. There isn't as many like skits and stuff. He does get to sing a bit. Oh my gosh, okay, the funny thing on here is he isn't even referred to by name on the wiki. Because I guess wait, is that real that he doesn't actually go by Prince for a certain point in his life, or is that just a joke from on here? Oh, it doesn't say. Cool. Because he has a symbol. Or no, wait, no, that's real, actually. Okay. That he went by, like, a symbol instead of his name, and the Muppets don't know how to pronounce it, and literally on the wiki, every time it should say the word Prince, it has the symbol, and I just find that kind of funny. I thought it was alright, but it was cool seeing him there. I like the Rick Moranis episode. They have a parody of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. I also like that they had a parody of Independence Day, because I've seen that movie like a billion times since I was little. Rick Moranis isn't in it, but I thought it was kind of funny anyway, where they turn it into like a therapy session with this pretty cool alien puppet and stuff. And then he gets to sing at the end. I didn't know that... Wait, what the hell am I saying? Of course I know Rick Moranis can sing. I'm a Little Shop of Horrors fan, which I'm actually surprised... Actually, they technically do have a skit of that, you can argue, where it's like a cooking sketch, and Rick Moranis sings a bunch of songs from the 50s, and he sings it really well, and then in the background there's a giant yeast puppet that's eating everyone. I'm gonna accept that as a Little Shop of Horrors reference and stuff, which they had to do, you know, like they have a giant puppet in Little Shop. Now I want to watch it again. Yeah, I liked watching this episode. It reminded me, like, yeah, I haven't seen Rick Moranis in a while, because I don't think he's been acting in anything probably since like the 80s or 90s, but he is coming back. There will be Spaceballs 2. He's going to be in it. I want to have high hopes for Spaceballs 2, because I love the original Spaceball movie, but we'll have to see. But yeah, it made me realize, damn, I need to rewatch stuff with him in it. I liked the Paula Abdul episode. There's a segment of it I really liked where her and these other puppets, it's like, I think the segment's called Opposites Attract, or that's the song. I thought that was really fun. She wears this like really bright pink outfit, and there's all these Muppets in the background. And I like that it's on a black screen where there's literally the biggest Muppets I've ever seen are there. I guess I forgot there's Muppets that are like way bigger than humans, or that Muppets can be bigger than, as big and small as they need to. I liked that there's a Sherlock Holmes parody, and I thought the voices they had for it are pretty good. I've been not trying to get into Sherlock Holmes, but there's like a Sherlock Holmes thing I've been watching where it's a animated show where they're all like dogs or whatever. I don't know if Sherlock Holmes will eventually be something I'd get into, like actually try to get into. It's one of those things where I've seen adaptations every once in a while, but I don't really know anything about it. But they have Sherlock Holmes as a whale puppet that keeps killing people, but it was like funny to me, not just because of the puppet, but you know, he's causing all this destruction, but he still sounds and talks like Sherlock Holmes or whatever. So that was pretty cool. What else? I liked where is it? Oh, okay. Sometimes the hosts actually have like, or the episodes have two hosts instead of just one. There's one where Dennis Quaid and Gilbert Gottfried are supposed to both be the hosts, but it's mostly just Dennis Quaid and Gilbert Gottfried is there. And no offense to Dennis Quaid, but sorry. I stayed up till like 1 a.m. watching this last night, so it's kind of just all rambling around in my brain. I watched it for Gilbert Gottfried. I mentioned to my friend, I'm like, I need to see him with the Muppets. It's going to be great. And he has like 2 little segments where he goes on a date with Kermit. But I thought they were pretty funny anyway, because it's him as this like very hyperactive. It's not even him playing a character. It's like him as him or whatever, which it's funny I mentioned about that. I'll explain it in a bit. And he overwhelms and kind of scares Kermit, and I thought that was pretty funny. Because the thing with Gilbert Gottfried, okay, I'm one of those people where I didn't know what his actual voice sounded like. Like I was introduced to him as like Iago in Aladdin and stuff, and you know, you always hear him in things with like that voice that he does. I didn't ever realize it was him putting on a voice until I watched SNL. You know, it makes sense though, because like with SNL, I fully expected him to sound like that and stuff. And he doesn't, but it makes sense because, you know, with SNL, it's like skits. If you're a cast member, you have to be able to play different characters. So if you did that voice all the time, it would probably get annoying and it wouldn't work with the show. And his regular voice is different and stuff. And it's like no offense to him or anything, but you know, it's like not as funny. I thought he was all right on there, but I didn't really find him funny as a cast member. I don't really remember any of his like skits on SNL. So then I was kind of glad with here where he's, you know, he's using the voice and stuff, and it's not just like using that voice that makes him funny, but like when he does it, he has this very like hyperactive energy and stuff where you feel like anything can happen, you know. I liked when Kermit goes to his house to see him because he, you know, won a contest to date Kermit, and he hugs Kermit and he's like, oh my gosh, it's Kermit the Frog, I'm so excited to meet you, and he gives him a hug and he's wearing a shirt with Kermit's face on it, and that sounds wholesome, but it's like played in a way where it's really funny. So I thought that was cool. Oh, okay, I can finally continue with this again. I know that's from your perspective, it's like I just keep talking or there's like a 1 second pause, but for mine sometimes it's like hours go by. I had some breakfast, did some things. Oh yeah, we left off with the guy from Gilbert Gottfried. I was trying to say the guy from Aladdin. I couldn't even remember because on the wiki his name's not even listed on as like the host until you actually click on it. So it just said Dennis Quaid, and I'm like, where is he? Okay, then I think 2 more people I have to talk about because there's a specific episode I saved towards the end, and I'm so glad I did because it was my favorite. Oh, something I wanted to mention about Michelle Pfeiffer is really quick. It was just like a small thing I thought was kind of cute. So I guess this is less of an overview and more of just like some of my favorite moments of the show or whatever. There was this little part when she first meets Miss Piggy at the beginning of the episode, and Miss Piggy mistakes her for something else, or for someone else, but it was kind of funny because you just hear Piggy and she goes, oh my god, oh my gosh, oh my, and she looks like genuinely shocked, and you look at Michelle Pfeiffer because they're both, you know, on camera and stuff, and she looks like so, you know, when you're kind of embarrassed of like someone recognizing you or something, and then Miss Piggy assumes that she's someone else, but that was just like a cute little bit, you know. Like I'm so used to Miss Piggy, and I mean she is, because Michelle Pfeiffer mentions of like, oh Miss Piggy, I'm like such a big fan of yours, and Miss Piggy's all like smug about it, like, yeah, I know, I'm great or whatever. It's something along those lines, you know. So then to see Piggy, like, even if it's like part of a bit, in shock of someone else like that, where it almost does kind of come out as genuine, it's kind of cute, actually. I almost wish there was a little bit more of her in this show. You know, it's funny, I like hated her when I was a kid. I found her really annoying, and I do still view her relationship with Kermit as like toxic and stuff, but I think she's grown on me as a character since I've watched some of the newer movies and like watching this and stuff, where I was this is the first time I've ever been like, oh, I actually want like more of her, you know. But I know there's more of her in like the movies and stuff. Like I really like her role in The Great Muppet Caper. It's just I think part of the reason I get tired of her too is that they always have it where it's like a plot twist of like, oh, Miss Piggy wasn't part of the movie and now she is, or whatever, and her having to like get together with Kermit, and it gets kind of tiring. I wish she was kind of just there with the Muppets from the beginning of like movies. Okay, so the Pierce Brosnan episode I want to talk about, but first I want to talk about the one with Gary Cuega, and that is part of the reason I watched Muppets Tonight. Like, the actual character is just kind of whatever. It's also so weird because, you know, the Muppets are, in terms of being quote-unquote puppets, you know, they're made out of felt and soft things and other stuff. They just look kind of very cozy and have like sweet faces and stuff for the most part. You know, they look approachable, like silly little guys. Gary Cuega is a ventriloquist dummy, or he's a sentient dummy without a ventriloquist. So he, you know, he's like made out of like wood or whatever, or like is designed to look like he's made out of wood. I don't think he's made of actual wood, and he has like a completely human face. I mean, there are human looking Muppets, but they're like Muppet versions of people, basically, is kind of the way they're designed. Gary Cuega looks like he would be like an actual human person. Like, that's how much the face is. So the mouth is always open and stuff. I don't know. I've always found ventriloquist dummies to look really creepy anyway. But it's weird because I'm used to seeing them, you know, with the ventriloquist. But the way Gary Cuega, like, moves around and is, like, controlled and stuff, is, like, the same way as the Muppets, where you only see, like, the top half of the body and the way he moves around and talks. It's weird because it, like, technically means he counts as, like, a Muppet and stuff. Like, he's part of their group or whatever. But, like, he's a ventriloquist dummy, and he looks so different from everyone else. It, like, really throws me off. The only reason I even know this character exists or anything is there's this clip I saw online of some, and it's what made me curious about the show as well, where I'm like, what kind of Muppets are they having here, you know, of this YouTuber. I don't remember who it is, where, you know how sometimes people on YouTube will make like these little slideshow videos where they present on a topic, but like it's on something kind of ridiculous, and there's like 3 bullets and they're all really silly in the photos. You've like seen the format or whatever. It's like a Google Slides type presentation, and someone, I guess, did one on introducing their friend to like really weird Muppets, and the clip is about the Gary Cuega puppet, and I swear it just makes me crack up every time because okay, I want to like explain it and stuff. There's a Muppet that's entirely 3D and digital named like Waldo C Graphic or something. So the friend had finished reacting to that and was like, wow, this is so weird. And then immediately it's Gary Cuega. It's just the name and the picture pops up and the guy just yells out in like and it's just the way he talks to, you know, like the same way he was talking about Waldo C Graphic. It's not like he put on a voice just to talk about Gary Cuega, and he goes, Gary Cuega, like he sounds so completely shocked over the existence of this puppet, especially because there's just one of the bullet lines just says Associate Prince. But yeah, it's just the way this guy has such a surprised reaction to the existence of Gary Cuega, and then also having the design of Gary Cuega on there and everything. It was a surprise to me too. I didn't even know there was like Muppet ventriloquist dummies or something, but it makes me crack up every time. But yeah, that's the reason I wanted to watch, and I thought, okay, if there's such a strong reaction to Gary Cuega's existence, just the fact his name's Gary Cuega, that sounds like a real person's name. I don't know if this character is like a parody of an existing human person or something. I do like the idea though of like a ventriloquist dummy without a human, you know, attached, and just being like sentient and whatever, and being treated as just like one of the Muppets. I find that kind of creative. Kind of makes me want to look more into like Muppets that aren't made out of felt, you know? But actual like Gary Cuega, like seeing him in the show, he's just kind of whatever. Like, this is his big episode. Like, he's technically listed as the host on here, but this episode I don't think has a host. That's the other thing, comparing it to the Muppet Show, that makes me a little sad, is like there's a couple episodes in Muppets Tonight that just don't have like a celebrity host, and that's like such a big thing with the Muppets because it makes it really fun. You come up with some cool like skits. Like the show kind of has to revolve around that because it's like a variety show. It can't just be the Muppets. I mean, it can and it is, but like, you know, it makes the show a little more special to me, whether you like recognize the hosts or not. But yeah, that's Gary Koega. I'm a little disappointed. It's not like he's like a probably hyped up popular character. It's just that one bit, that one YouTube video, but it was just so funny. I just assumed that Gary Koega was like the funniest thing on earth in the Muppet universe, and he's not. So there's that. Anyway, last episode I'm going to talk about is the Pierce Brosnan episode. I'll be honest, the reason I love this one so much is because of all the Bond references, and I'm a James Bond fan, which feels kind of funny to say because I have never done a single James Bond review on this channel of any of the movies, and I never will, even though maybe eventually I'll rewatch them or whatever, and they could be fun to talk about. It's like they're just like the kind of movies I feel like I wouldn't really be able to do like fun commentary to. Like, I know my commentary is basically just reading a bunch of notes I write on my phone and stuff, and sometimes it isn't even funny, sometimes it's just like the things I like or whatever. But I feel like with the stuff like the Bond movies, it's just kind of harder for me to do that, and I take those movies more seriously anyway. So that's not something I'll ever talk about here, but I wanted to mention about that I'm a Bond fan, so when I see like Bond references and stuff, or like the existence of Austin Powers or whatever, it puts a smile on my face. And I'm surprised how many of them are here, because they do this whole thing where everyone treats Pierce Brosnan like he's James Bond. Like, he wears a tux the entire episode as well. Like, they have a casino sketch where he's a gambler. It's all very like surface level stuff. Piggy is a Bond girl, apparently under the name Porky Galore, which is a good thing they can change the name for that compared to what the character's usual name is. It kind of reminded me for a second of, I was thinking of like Joel Grey in the original Muppet Show, and he performs one of the songs from Cabaret, but Cabaret is like absolutely not, for children and stuff. What other Bond stuff do they do? My favorite, but the casino thing is cool as well. Like, he dances with Miss Piggy. There's a character named Blowfish, because it's supposed to be a play on Blofeld. That actually kind of surprised me that they had that. Where, the episode starts with Pierce Brosnan being like, yeah, I'm not James Bond, I'm not this cool, suave person, even though he totally is. And then as the episode goes on, he kind of gets in the character as if he's like actually James Bond. So I thought that was kind of fun. But one of my favorite things with the episode is the cold open, where it's him and it's Bunsen and Beaker. And it's funny, in my Muppets Most Wanted, I was going to say Muppets 2014, which is technically right, but Muppets Most Wanted, there's a part where Dr. Bunsen, he is listing all these inventions he made, and I don't remember if I said it, but I remember thinking about it, of like, those all sound like they would be Q inventions in James Bond. I literally thought he'd make a good Q in that series, and that is exactly what this cold open is, which is perfect. Whereas, he's giving Bond, because that's the thing, especially in the older Bond movies, if you don't know, is there's a character named Q, which is short for quartermaster, and he like it's kind of like a wacky segment actually, where he gives Bond explaining like the gadgets, and Bond messes with them and stuff and whatever, and there's a lot of really silly ones. That's like the thing with spy movies, but with Bond is like there's a lot of fun gadgets, except for the later movies where they get rid of all the gadgets because they're trying to be more serious, and it makes me a little sad. Not just because of the lack of gadgets, but like I really like Bond and Q. I mean, there is a Q in the newer ones, but it's like a very different vibe, because the original Q actor is like this old man who's almost sort of like fatherly figure type of vibe to Bond, and it's like one of the times we get to see James Bond be like a little silly. I mean, there are definitely some silly things in that series, but when he kind of messes around with Q and stuff, you can tell like they get along and everything, and he was in the movies for so long, you know, it was always a segment that I looked forward to in those. And damn it, now talking about it, I kind of want to rewatch some of the Bond movies. You might get reviews of those from me. I changed my mind. But yeah, the whole segment with Bunsen, I feel like it works because it's already like a little humorous in the Bond series itself, so it's kind of easy to parody and stuff. It doesn't feel like, oh, they're doing like a watered down, like safe for kids version of the whatever they're parodying. You know how sometimes it is with this kind of show. But no, here, like, it makes sense and stuff. And they can go even sillier too. Like, they have a microphone that makes speaker explode. I liked the alarm clock where Pierce Brosnan's like, what does this do? And then Bunsen pulls out a giant slingshot and is like, yeah, you can just launch this at people. So that was a cool little segment. It just worked perfectly. That's the thing I love with the Muppets. I know a lot of people are like, you can do Muppet adaptations of stuff, but sometimes it just feels like shoving in the Muppets. But then every once in a while there's like stuff like this where it already works so well. I liked the end of the episode as well, where oh, that reminds me, I forgot about that, actually. It was entire segments that I skipped, but I thought it's interesting. Apparently there's different regional versions of Muppets Tonight, and the one I was watching was like the UK one, which means there was like extra skits, and there's like a bunch of them that take place at a bar with this like goat character and this other character, and I always skip them because they always those segments always started with a cover of the If You Like My Body, If You Think I'm Sexy song, and I thought, oh, that's kind of weird, so I never watched the actual skits themselves. Apparently there's a performance of Beautiful Dreamer in there. I want to check that out. But I liked at the end of the episode, the Johnny Fiamma character does a James Bond parody song of Goldfinger, but it's about Pierce Brosnan. It's actually like well sung and stuff. Like, they didn't have to include that in their Bond stuff. Like, they already hit the things of like having the casino stuff and the pretty women and even the cold open being the stuff with Q. Like, that was enough for me, but the fact they ended it with the song too, I thought that was pretty fun. Damn, that makes me miss older Bond songs. I always like the ballads. I have a soft spot for them. And Goldfinger's probably like the most iconic of those. There's a segment where the studio gets held hostage, and I thought it was gonna be Bronson as Bond with like a toy gun or something, but instead he has to disguise himself, and he's prawn. He's James Prawn. He's dressed as a giant prawn, like a lobster or something, and he fights them. And it is kind of funny, to be honest, of having a Muppet sing a James Bond song and doing really well in that, and then in the background Pierce Brosnan is in a freaking lobster costume or like a prawn costume and just beating the shit out of Muppets with his hands. Was cool. There's one part, I mean, they couldn't have used like a separate person for it. It is him there on stage, but I was like pretty damn impressed, where at the end he tries fire eating, and he actually does it. He like blows fire out of a thing. There's like a picture of it I'm looking at right now, and I'm pretty sure it is him, because then it stops, he's done, and he turns back to the camera. Like, they couldn't have substituted in a person at that point, but that looks so fucking cool. This picture just looks so cool, actually, because it's him, and there's literally just fire coming out of the mouth and stuff, and that's pretty badass. And he does it so casually too. I was like really impressed out of like everything with this episode. You know, he's trying to be Bond and he's trying to be cool, and then he tops it off with that, and the episode ends, and I'm like, you can't just start that off here. Oh, apparently he ended up burning his mouth. Okay, there's a little quote from him on here. Hold on, I might read some of this. Oh, apparently he did circus stuff. Okay, so that was real. That was his party trick. Damn. So it scorched his mouth. Oh, the rocket fuel ended up back in his mouth. Ugh. Damn, because once he's done with the trick, he starts petting his face with a patting it down with like a washcloth and says that it was really hot. And I thought that was part of the joke of like he literally just blew fire, but no, that was, I guess that was like an actual reaction. But damn, I was impressed. That was honestly one of the coolest things I've ever seen on this show. But yeah, that's all the ones I wanted to talk about. But yeah, James Bond episode was my favorite personally, but I think the funniest to me was probably either the Martin Short episode. It is also funny seeing Martin Short here because I remember Steve Martin, I swear, was a host on the original Muppet Show where he like played the banjo, and then seeing Martin Short. I know they're not the same person, they're both named Martin, but I'm so used to seeing them together it kind of throws me off. But yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts on it. I thought it was pretty fun. I'm actually fine with it being 2 seasons. I didn't desperately feel like I needed more. It just felt like the right length. And it's not as good as the original Muppet Show, but I still think it's fun. It made me a little sad because I thought we need another Muppet Show. You know, it would have been sad if it was like just the original that existed and then they never tried again. You know, I mean, there's other Muppet shows. There's like Muppet Babies, which I have zero interest in that, but I like that they try to get, even though it wasn't like amazing or anything, I like that they tried again to do another like Muppet variety show, and it was pretty cool. Like, and just the idea of like modernizing, even though now it's not modern because it was the 90s, but you know, to try to modernize it and having that like TV station setting and stuff, I just feel like worked really well. It makes me curious for the new one. Is it going to be back in the, I hope it's back in the theater again and stuff, but with like modern people, because sometimes I think about that when I see actors in movies or doing things. I'm like, man, this person would make like such a good host for the Muppet Show, you know. But yeah, that's it for me in terms of Muppet stuff probably for now, unless you guys, I might rewatch some of the Muppet movies. I was watching a Shakerillis Muppet review video yesterday, now that I've finished all the Muppet movies, and the way he talked about the Muppet Caper kind of made me want to rewatch it. I also want to rewatch the Manhattan one and Treasure Island, so maybe you'll get me talking about that. I don't know when I'll do it. I feel like I need like I can take like a break from the Muppets for now and come back to it later. In terms of my recording anyway, this will be up in like November or something, so there might just be a whole bunch of Muppet stuff by then. We'll see. But anyway, yeah, I'm glad I checked this out. It was cool to see like different Muppets and stuff. I loved seeing the hosts. I was actually talking about this show with my parents this morning, and now I got to watch the movies Speed and When Harry Met Sally thanks to this. So yeah. All right. Bye bye.